Why happiness always feels out of reach. Why can't I be happy? Part 1. Have you ever looked around at your life and thought, I should be happy by now? You have a job. You have a home. You have people who care about you. Maybe you even have the things you once dreamed about. And yet, something feels missing. You wake up. You go to work. You answer your messages. You pay your bills. You scroll through your phone. You watch other people living their lives. And somehow, at the end of the day, you still feel empty. Then comes the question you don't want to admit. What's wrong with me? Imagine a woman named Sarah. She was 38 years old. She had a successful career, a comfortable house, a loving husband, and 2 healthy children. From the outside, Sarah had everything. Her friends often told her how lucky she was, and she knew they were right. But every night, after everyone went to sleep, Sarah would sit alone in the living room. The house was quiet. Her phone was on the table, and she would stare at the ceiling wondering why she wasn't happier. She had spent years believing that happiness was waiting for her somewhere in the future. After the promotion, after buying the house, after paying off the debt, after the children became more independent, after she finally had enough money. But every time she reached the next milestone, the feeling disappeared. So she chased another one, another goal, another purchase, another vacation, another achievement, another reason to believe that happiness was just around the corner. But happiness kept moving. One evening, Sarah had a realization. Maybe happiness wasn't something she was failing to find. Maybe she had been looking for it in the wrong place. This is where the ancient Stoics offer us a radically different perspective. They didn't teach that happiness comes from getting everything you want. They taught that a good life begins when you stop making your inner peace dependent on external circumstances. Welcome to Timeless Quotes TV. If you enjoy timeless philosophy, psychology, and practical wisdom for navigating modern life, consider subscribing and joining us on this journey. Because today, we're going to explore a question millions of people quietly carry every day. Why does happiness always feel out of reach? And more importantly, why can't I be happy? Part 2. The first problem is that we've been taught to treat happiness like a destination. We imagine that happiness will arrive when something changes, when we make more money, when we find the right partner, when we lose the weight, when we get the promotion, when people finally respect us, when life finally becomes easier. But the human mind has a strange habit. It quickly becomes accustomed to what it receives. A new car feels exciting. For a while. A new house feels incredible. For a while. A promotion feels amazing. For a while. Then the new becomes normal. And the mind starts looking for the next thing. This is one reason happiness can feel permanently out of reach. You don't necessarily have a happiness problem. You may have an expectation problem. You keep comparing your current life with an imagined version of your future life. And the future always looks better. The future you is healthier, richer, more successful, more confident, more respected, more peaceful. So the present never feels good enough. Then social media makes this even worse. You open your phone and see someone's vacation, someone's new house, someone's wedding, someone's business success, someone's perfect body, someone's perfect family, someone's perfect morning routine. You compare their highlight reel with your ordinary Tuesday afternoon. and suddenly your perfectly normal life feels like a failure. But there is another psychological trap. We often believe that happiness should feel intense. We expect excitement, constant pleasure, constant motivation, constant positive emotions. So when life becomes quiet, we assume something is wrong. But perhaps happiness isn't supposed to feel like excitement all the time. Perhaps real happiness is quieter. It looks like contentment, gratitude, meaning, connection, and the ability to sit alone in a quiet room without desperately needing something else to happen. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius didn't have social media. He didn't have advertising algorithms. He didn't have millions of people competing for his attention. But he understood something we desperately need today. The quality of your life depends largely on the quality of your mind. If your mind constantly says, more, nothing will ever be enough. Part 3. The first lesson is simple. Stop postponing happiness. If you tell yourself that you will be happy someday, you may spend your entire life waiting for someday. There will always be another goal, another problem, another level, another thing to fix. Learn to experience the life you already have. The second lesson is that enough is a decision. Modern culture tells you that enough is a number, a certain salary, a certain house, a certain number of followers, a certain level of success. But there is no universal number that makes a human being satisfied. If your mind is trained to want more, more will never be enough. The third lesson is that comparison steals happiness. You don't need to become better than everyone else. You need to become more aligned with the person you want to be. Your life is not a competition against someone else's highlight reel. The only useful comparison is between who you are today and who you were yesterday. The fourth lesson is that gratitude changes what you notice. Gratitude doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. It means training your attention to recognize what is already good. Your health, a friend, a meal, a quiet morning, a conversation, a second chance, a person who still answers your call. What you repeatedly notice becomes what you repeatedly experience. The fifth lesson is perhaps the deepest. Happiness is not the absence of pain. It is the ability to live meaningfully even when life is difficult. The Stoics never promised a life without suffering. They promised something more valuable, a mind capable of meeting suffering without being destroyed by it. You will have bad days. You will lose people. You will fail. You will be disappointed. You will experience uncertainty. That doesn't mean you have failed at happiness. It means you are alive. Real happiness isn't constant pleasure. It is the ability to remain connected to meaning, even when life doesn't give you what you want. Part 4. Now consider the world we live in. Artificial intelligence is changing how we work. Social media is changing how we communicate. Algorithms are changing what we see. Automation is changing entire industries. And information is available almost instantly. We have more convenience than almost any generation before us. Yet convenience hasn't automatically created contentment. In fact, unlimited choice can create a strange kind of dissatisfaction. There are thousands of movies, millions of products, endless entertainment, infinite opinions, countless people to compare ourselves with, and an endless stream of things we could become. Your brain never receives the message that you are finished. There is always another notification, another video, another opportunity, another trend, another person doing something you aren't doing. AI can make this even more powerful. It can help you work faster, create faster, learn faster, build businesses faster. But faster isn't the same as happier. We may soon live in a world where technology can help us accomplish almost anything, except tell us what is actually worth accomplishing. That becomes the deeper problem. When machines become better at optimization, humans must become better at deciding what deserves to be optimized. You can optimize your income, your productivity, your body, your schedule, your business. But what if you optimize everything except your ability to enjoy being alive? That's why ancient philosophy may become more valuable, not less valuable, in the age of AI. Technology can help you achieve more. Philosophy helps you decide what more is for. Because if you don't know what enough means, no amount of technology will ever give you enough. Part 5. So how do you stop chasing happiness? Start by asking a different question. Not, what would make me happier? But, what am I constantly expecting before I allow myself to be happy? Maybe you're waiting for someone to love you. Maybe you're waiting for more money. Maybe you're waiting for success. Maybe you're waiting for your life to become easier. Identify the condition, then challenge it. Second, practice wanting what you already have. Look at your ordinary day, not your vacation, not your birthday, not your biggest achievement, your ordinary Tuesday. Can you find something worth appreciating there? The answer is almost always yes, but appreciation requires attention. Third, reduce comparison. You don't have to delete every social media account. You simply need to recognize what those platforms are doing to your perception. If you constantly leave an app feeling inadequate, the problem may not be your life. It may be what you've been training your mind to compare it against. Fourth, create something meaningful. Happiness often grows when you contribute rather than consume. Build something. Teach someone. Help someone. Raise a family. Create art. Solve a problem. Serve a purpose larger than yourself. And finally, learn to be alone without being lonely. Turn off the phone. Sit somewhere quiet. Take a walk. Read. Think. Let your mind become quiet. At first, silence may feel uncomfortable. That's okay. You are not broken. You are simply discovering how noisy your mind has become. And eventually, you may realize something surprising. You weren't missing happiness. You were missing stillness. Part 6. If I wanted to build a happier and more peaceful life, I would start with a few simple tools. First, a gratitude journal. Every night, write down 3 things that were genuinely good about your day. Not impressive things. Not things you think you should be grateful for. Real things. A good conversation. A warm meal. A peaceful moment. Someone who made you laugh. Second, keep an enough list. Write down what enough means for you. How much money do you actually need? How much work is enough? How much consumption is enough? How much time online is enough? If you don't define enough, the market will define it for you. Third, use technology intentionally. If I were using AI, I wouldn't only ask it to make me more productive. I'd also ask it questions that help me think. What am I optimizing that doesn't actually matter? What am I avoiding? What values do my current decisions reflect? What would I regret not doing? And finally, return to the classics. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca. Their world was radically different from ours, but the human mind hasn't changed as much as we think. We still want approval. We still fear loss. We still chase status. We still compare. We still want more. And we still wonder why we aren't happy. The tools may change. The human problem remains. Part 7. Let's return to Sarah. For years, she believed happiness was somewhere in front of her. Another achievement. Another purchase. Another milestone. Another version of herself. Then she began doing something very simple. She stopped asking what was missing and started asking what was already here. She noticed the sound of her children laughing downstairs. She noticed the quiet mornings with her husband. She noticed the coffee she used to drink without thinking. She noticed that many of the things she had once prayed for had already become ordinary parts of her life. Her circumstances didn't suddenly become perfect. Her problems didn't disappear. But her relationship with her life changed. And perhaps that's what we misunderstand about happiness. We keep looking for a different life, when sometimes we need a different way of seeing the life we already have. You don't need to be happy every minute. You don't need to eliminate sadness. You don't need to become endlessly positive. You simply need to stop making your peace dependent on getting everything you want. Because if happiness requires perfect circumstances, you will always be waiting. But if happiness can coexist with imperfection, you can begin today. So ask yourself one question tonight. What if nothing else changed? What if your income stayed the same? Your house stayed the same? Your career stayed the same? Your relationships stayed the same? Could you still find something worth appreciating? If the answer is yes, you may be closer to happiness than you think. And if the answer is no, perhaps that is the question worth exploring next. Tell us in the comments. What is one thing you once wanted desperately that you now have, but rarely appreciate? Your answer might remind someone else to recognize the blessings they've stopped seeing. If this video gave you a new perspective on happiness, subscribe to Timeless Quotes TV. Here, we explore Stoicism, psychology, philosophy, and timeless wisdom for living with greater clarity in a world that constantly tells us we need more. And in the next episode, we'll explore another uncomfortable question: why you keep chasing things that don't matter. Because sometimes the reason happiness feels out of reach isn't that you don't have enough. It's that you've been chasing the wrong things. Until then, stop waiting for your life to become perfect. Stop comparing your ordinary life with someone else's highlight reel. And remember, happiness may not be waiting somewhere in the future. It may be hiding inside the life you are too distracted to notice. Sometimes, the life you've been trying to escape is the life someone else is praying for.